Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Trekyards. I'm Captain Foley.
I'm Connor Collins, and
I'm Aaron Waltke. I was a writer-producer on Season 1 of Star Trek Prodigy, and I'm currently the head writer and co-executive producer of the show.
Stuart, he's really important. Oh my god.
He is. And the best part is he's one of us. He cares about the lore, he cares about the canon, he cares about the tech, and that's awesome because Trekyards is all about that kind of stuff. So glad to have you on, man.
And Prodigy has a good amount of that as well.
Indeed, there's no shortage of it, that's for sure. Especially the episodes I write, where sometimes they go a little overboard.
You can't go overboard with that stuff. That's fine.
I'm sure production designers say, do you need to have 5 props? Can we just do 2? And you're like, no, it came in a set of 5. And they're like...
Well, that's the balance we always have on the show, especially in a 3D sort of CGI animated show, is like it is sort of a negotiation, you know. So we'll write what, you know, Mark Guggenheim, a colleague of mine, would call the Cadillac version, where we'll just throw everything that we want in there, and then we'll have like a production breakdown meeting of like, okay, what can we actually do, you know, with our, you know, episodic budget, and are there things we can trade out of stuff we've already designed, which is essentially free, you know, and trying to basically horse trade our way into pushing the football a little bit forward. Sorry, the rugby ball for you, not American people, but also finding that balance of you know, what we can achieve in our limited time and budget. Because I think a lot of people have this false notion that, oh, you're a Star Trek animated show, you have unlimited funds and means, and there's just an army of people. But we are like a crack pirate crew. Like, it's literally just like a few of us that care very deeply about our respective trades and this show, just trying to pull out every magic trick we have in our bag to evoke the stuff that we love about Star Trek, past, present, and hopefully future. I wouldn't say a shoestring budget, but it's considerably less than, say, Stranger Things, which one episode has the budget of an entire season. But no, it's a fun, wild ride. I'm just trying to hang on, and as we all are. And yeah, it's been a joy just seeing the fan reaction to everything.
Well, tell us a little about the team. Like, how many people are involved generally? Because I think a lot of people are interested in the behind the scenes of that. As you said, there's a lot of misconceptions about an animated show. So what's the process, and how many people?
Yeah, well, that's kind of the crazy thing is, you know, we've made most of this show work from home. Like I believe we had just written, we had just finished writing the first 20, like February 2019, or sorry, February 2020. So like literally the next week it was lockdown, and then everybody was just working from home. So like pretty much all of this show has been made, with the exception of like I think a little bit of storyboarding on the pilot, was made entirely from people's like living rooms and bedrooms like this. So I actually haven't even met the entire crew. You know, I see some of them on Zoom calls and such, but you know, like it's very kind of hierarchical, right? Like you have the heads of the department. You have someone who's head of assets, head of environmental designs, and then those kind of feed upward. And then you have people like our supervising producer, Patrick Krebs, you know, who kind of figures out the logistics of how to physically make this stuff. And then you have that all feeding into, you know, sort of our creative visual lead and director, the supervising director, Ben Iban, you know, who is an artist in his own right and just sort of gives final approval. But it is very sort of delegated or whatnot. But it's, you know, whereas a live action show might have 5 people on this team, you know, we have maybe 1 or 2, and then, you know, they have mid-level people beneath that and beneath that. But there's not budget for like 5, you know, where a live action show might have like 5 crack people. We have like 1 crack person who could do the work of 3. And that's the only way we can produce this show at the level of quality that it is because we just have passionate people that are really good at what they do.
Well, I have a specific thing that really sets you guys apart from any other modern iteration and even so much the old ones, is that you came in with a very confusing show order because you were announced as 10 and then suddenly it was 20 and there wasn't 2 seasons, there was 1 season. Then you announced for 2 seasons, but you would in theory have to start planning those during the first season because it feels very detailed. So let's assume you were given a roughly 40 order from the start, give or take, at least a plan. Every current Trek show is given 10, you may get renewed, and then we find out. And there's no planning. Every season, for the most part, of all the shows, has kind of fallen flat at the payoffs because they're not planned, they're shifted. And while you can obviously shift in production, where did that order come in to be that high-end planned, episodic and serialized? Because that is unheard of in modern Trek. Talk about that, 'cause that's very, very different with you guys.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting about at least the production order of it all is in animation in particular, it's kind of the only way that you can make animation, specifically because the time from, I mean, I guess that's changing a little bit with shows where like every frame is a CGI render, but in animation for as long as it's been around, it's just between conception all the way to release, it usually takes at least a year, sometimes 2 years. So the only way to hang on to your entire crew is to order huge batch bulk episodes. The caveat with that is that until very recently, semi-serialized or heavily serialized storytelling wasn't in vogue. So there was only a few select sort of options where you could see shows that would kind of like, hey, let's plan out a whole story arc with characters and arcs and midpoints and, dips and valleys in this narrative that we're trying to tell with an end goal in sight. That has only really come about in the last 10, 15 years, I think, with a few notable exceptions. Not to toot my own horn, but I think a lot of people would agree that a game-changing version of that kind of storytelling, at least CGI animation, was Troll Hunters and Tales of Arcadia, which is a show that I previously worked on with the Hagemans and a few other productions. And then I came back and was the showrunner of the final installation of that, which was Wizards Tales of Arcadia. And that was a Guillermo del Toro project that Netflix had ordered. And they ordered 52 episodes, half hour, sight unseen, and just said, make it. And then like maybe 10, 20 episodes into that, they said, hey, this is really good. Can you do more? And so that's when we started fleshing out. And even as we were writing, we're like, hey, there's a lot of stuff here we can keep exploring. And so we started actively kind of evolving the story as we went. And then we were able to build out a trilogy that was capped off with the film. And, and that's kind of the model that we're following here. Is like, whether it's, faith or ego or whatever you want to call it, we're like, you know what, I think this story is going to keep going, but let's make sure that let's assume that we have at least these solid 40 episodes and be very methodical of like, what are our midpoints? What are our character arcs? I think before we even had written a single word, put pen to paper, we spent about 2.5 weeks just talking out every character in terms of who they are, what do they represent, what would be their journey over the course of this season or 40 episodes, and what would, pie in the sky 7 seasons from now, what would we love their sort of end goal to be? Like, where would we love to see them end up, are they graduating Starfleet Academy? Are they returning to their home world? Finding like, they call it the blue sky period of writing, having the wherewithal to just kind of sit down and think about that stuff was a luxury that I think I and the Hagemans were just like, let's just carve out this space, because I think we understood that we were breathing rarefied air in that regard. Especially even in live action, as everything kind of, the orders kept shrinking and you get like mini rooms you had maybe like 2 months to kind of write the whole thing, and then you just kind of be off on your own to some other project. But we were like, look, this is going to be at least the next year of our lives. And I can speak for myself and many of the other people in the writer's room. We took this very seriously because I remember what it was like in 2005 when Enterprise got canceled. And I remember every report coming out saying, well, Star Trek is dead. It had a good run. And it was a very dark days. And so like, I was like, gosh, like Star Trek is so cool. We have to find some way to get show like these new and young audiences that, you know, where the gold is buried, because that was always the intimidating thing, I think, is like when I was growing up, people would be like, where do I start with Star Trek? And I was like, I don't know, binge 100 episodes.
All of it.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah, start at the beginning.
3 monitors, one on each thing.
Right. So it was a really fun, kind of interesting process because I know where the gold is buried, you know, like that's kind of the fun of Star Trek is like, yeah, there's always going to be some clunkers, and there's always going to be someone's like, it was an interesting premise. They didn't quite do it right. Or, oh, that's a really problematic thing that they did. But, you know, amidst all of that 55 plus years of people just trying stuff and sometimes succeeding, sometimes failing, I think there's an essence that Trek fans understand. And when they think about like, what is Star Trek? And I was like, we just kind of, me and the writer's room and everybody just kind of went through that and were like, what are these sort of core components that maybe hardcore Star Trek fans take for granted that we can try to breathe a little bit of new life into and say, hey, just at the basic fundamentals, isn't a universal translator an interesting idea? You know, and then slowly build like a cathedral. You start with those brick and mortar, and then you slowly kind of build like, also there's these characters that are cool that are from the past, but also there's this technology of like pushing it forward, and then gradually start, you know, weaving through that the story of these characters that don't know anything about Star Trek, and slowly them coming to embrace the ideals. But even as, you know, as Star Trek changes them, perhaps they also change Star Trek, you know, putting their characters first and foremost, and what their journey means for the greater, you know, Federation, I think, you know, is just as important to us, rather than it just being a nostalgia trip. Which, trust me, I love nostalgia trips. Like, I will defend relics to my grave. I want to see Scotty walking around the Enterprise, hanging out with Geordi. It's great.
Absolutely. All right, well, I think that's a good lead in to the rest of our talk with you. We're going to get kind of down in the weeds with tech and ships and all that cool stuff, but that was a good general overview. So, yeah, so thank you, Aaron, for joining us. Everybody out there, please stay tuned. Make sure you're subscribed. Hit that like button so you don't miss anything. And we look forward to speaking with him again very soon. So
for our seconds.
Until next time, I'm Captain Foley.
I'm Connor Coggins and guest.
And I'm Lieutenant Commander Waltke.
Ooh.
That's rare for a guest. Ooh, not a general or admiral. Okay. Cool. Bye, guys.
See you guys later. Bye.